Hey everyone, welcome to English Time Podcast, your new favorite place to practice real English conversations.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Emma. We're your hosts, and we're so excited you're here with us today.
In every episode, you'll hear real conversations at different levels, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and we'll explain important words, phrases, and grammar along the way.
Exactly. So if you're a beginner just starting out, or an intermediate learner who wants to sound more natural, or even an advanced student aiming for fluency, this podcast is for you.
Today, we're kicking off with something super important. Introducing yourself and small talk, how to meet new people and start a friendly conversation.
All right, ready? Let's get into it.
Okay, imagine we're meeting for the first time at a language class.
Let's keep it super simple. Here we go. Hi there.
Hello.
I'm Emma. What's your name?
I'm Jack. Nice to meet you, Emma.
Nice to meet you too. Where are you from?
I'm from Canada. And you?
I'm from Brazil.
Cool. What do you do?
I'm a student. I study engineering. What about you?
I work as a teacher.
Oh, that's interesting.
Thanks. What are your hobbies?
I love reading and playing the guitar.
Awesome. I like hiking and cooking.
Nice. Maybe you can cook for us one day.
Haha, sure.
All right, let's dive into what we just heard.
First, let's talk about the greetings. When Emma said, "Hi there," that's a super friendly and casual way to say hello. You can use it with friends, classmates, or even someone new you meet at a party.
And don't forget this magic phrase, nice to meet you. Whenever you meet someone for the first time, you always say it. It shows you're polite and friendly.
Now let's look at the two questions we used. Where are you from? What do you do?
These are perfect questions for small talk. If you don't know what to say when meeting someone new, ask about their country, their job, or their hobbies. Now let's take a closer look at the grammar we used in our conversation. When you're talking about facts or things that are true about you, like where you're from, what you do, or even things you like to do regularly, we use the simple present tense.
Exactly. The simple present tense is one of the easiest and most important tenses in English. You'll use it all the time to talk about things that are always true or happen regularly.
For example, if you want to tell someone where you're from, you would say, I am from Canada. Simple, right?
Yes, super easy. Now, if you want to talk about what you do, you can say, I study subject. For instance, I would say, I study engineering. Emma, what about you? What do you study?
Good question. I study English. It's a very simple way to talk about what you're learning or working on.
Right. So, when we use the simple present tense, we're talking about things that are true for a long time or things we do regularly. For example, I work at a school. I like coffee. She plays tennis every weekend.
Exactly. Notice how these sentences are all talking about things that are true now and don't change often.
You'll also notice that for positive sentences, we use the base form of the verb, like study, work, like, etc. For example, I work or she plays. Pretty easy, right?
And don't forget about the to be verb. If you're talking about where you're from or who you are, you'll use the verb am, is, or are. For example, I am from Canada. She is a teacher. They are friends.
Exactly. So, to summarize, the simple present is used for facts, routines, and regular actions. It's very simple. Just use the base verb and don't forget about am, is, or are when talking about yourself, someone else, or things that are true.
Now let's practice. Listen carefully and repeat after us. I am from Spain. I study computer science. I like coffee.
Perfect. Keep practicing, and soon you'll be using the simple present like a pro.
Also, let's not forget today's new word. Hobbies. These are fun activities you enjoy in your free time. Maybe you like reading, playing an instrument, cooking, or playing sports.
Awesome job. You're already building real conversations. Stick with us. It only gets better.
All right, now we're a little more comfortable. Let's have a slightly deeper conversation.
Right. Now we'll talk about our daily routines and free time.
Hey Jack, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm great, thanks.
So what's a normal day like for you?
Well, I usually wake up around 7 a.m. I have a quick breakfast and then head to my classes.
Sounds busy.
Yeah, a bit. After class, I go to the library or meet my friends for coffee.
Nice! I work from 9 to 5, so my days are pretty regular.
What do you usually do after work?
I cook dinner, relax, and sometimes watch movies.
That sounds like a good balance. Okay, now that we're a bit more advanced, let's break down that second conversation.
First, notice how Emma asked, "How's it going?" It's a very natural, relaxed way to ask, "How are you?" You can use it with friends, coworkers, or anyone you feel comfortable with.
Exactly. And when you want to know about someone's routine, just ask, "What's a normal day like for you?"
Let's talk about grammar a little. We're still using the simple present tense because we're describing regular habits and daily activities. Like, I usually wake up at 7 a.m. I go to the library after class.
All right, now let's talk about something super important that came up in our conversation. Adverbs of frequency. These are words that tell us how often we do something. It's really helpful when you want to be more specific about your habits or routines.
Exactly. Let's start with the most common ones. Always. Usually, sometimes. Rarely, never. These words show us how often something happens, from the most frequent, always, to the least frequent, never.
Let's look at each one. First, always. This means that something happens 100% of the time. For example, I always drink coffee in the morning. He always wakes up early. So if you say always, you mean that it happens every single time.
Right. And then we have usually. This means that something happens most of the time, but not every time. For example, I usually take a walk after dinner. She usually works from home on Fridays. So, it's very common, but not absolutely certain.
Now let's talk about sometimes. This one means it happens occasionally, but not regularly. For example, I sometimes eat fast food. They sometimes go to the cinema on weekends. So this is not something you do every day, but maybe once in a while.
Exactly. And what about rarely? This one means not often at all. You do something very infrequently when you use rarely. For example, I rarely eat dessert. He rarely watches TV. It's something you do only occasionally, maybe a few times a year.
And finally, we have never. This means 0 times. You use never when something doesn't happen at all. For example, I never smoke. They never go out after 10 p.m. So never means it doesn't happen ever.
So, how do we use these adverbs? Well, we place them in different spots in the sentence. For most verbs, the adverb comes before the main verb. For example, I always drink coffee. He rarely goes out.
But if you're using the verb to be, like am, is, are, then the adverb comes after the verb. For example, I am always happy. They are never late.
Good point, Emma. It's important to remember that the position of the adverb depends on the verb you're using.
Let's look at a few more examples to make sure you really get it. She always helps me with my homework. We usually go to the gym after work. They sometimes visit their grandparents. I rarely eat junk food. He never forgets his keys.
Perfect. Now, try making some sentences of your own. It's a great way to practice these adverbs of frequency. The more you practice, the easier it will be to use them naturally in your conversations.
All right, it's new vocabulary time. Let's learn some important words that we use today. The first word is library. A library is a quiet place where you can go to study, read, or do research. It's a peaceful environment, usually filled with books, and it helps people focus and learn without distractions. For example, I like to study in the library because it's quiet. She spends hours in the library reading different books.
Great! Now, let's look at the next word, balance. When we talk about balance, we mean having a healthy mix between different things in life, like work, study, and fun activities. It's about making sure you don't focus too much on one thing and forget the others. For example, it's important to have a balance between work and rest. She tries to balance studying with spending time with friends. Balance helps you avoid burnout and stay healthy, both mentally and physically. So, finding balance is key to living a happy, productive life.
Exactly. So remember, library is a quiet place to study and read. Balance is about maintaining a healthy mix between all the important parts of life: work, study, and fun.
Let's practice speaking again. Repeat after us. I usually study at the library. After work, I like to relax and watch movies.
Perfect. You're sounding more natural already. Ready for a little dreaming in English? Let's go.
Now it's time to dream a little. Let's imagine where we would live if we could live anywhere in the world.
Here we go. Jack, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Tough question. Maybe Spain. I love the culture and the food.
Oh, Spain is amazing.
Yeah, how about you?
I would love to live in Italy. I've dreamed of living there since I was a child.
That sounds wonderful. What would you do there?
I'd probably open a small bookstore by the beach.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thanks. What about you? Any dreams for the future?
I'd love to start my own tech company one day.
That's awesome. I'm sure you'll do great.
Thank you, Emma. Wow, that was a fun conversation. Talking about dreams makes English so much more exciting.
All right. Now it's time to talk about something really cool in English, the second conditional. This is a very useful structure, especially when we talk about imaginary or unlikely situations. It's used for situations that aren't real right now, but we dream about them. These are things that could happen in a perfect world or in the future, but are not likely to happen right now.
Exactly. So the second conditional is all about imagination. For example, you might say, if I won the lottery, I would travel around the world. But in reality, you don't have the lottery money right now, so it's not real. It's just a dream or a fantasy.
That's right. So let's look at the structure of the second conditional. It's really simple. Here's the formula. If plus past simple would plus base verb. So the first part of the sentence starts with if, and then a verb in the past simple tense. And the second part has would plus the base form of the verb.
Right. Let's break it down with some examples. For example, if I could live anywhere, I would move to Italy. In this sentence, could is the past simple form of can, and we're imagining a situation where we could live anywhere in the world. But it's not real right now. We're dreaming about it.
Exactly. Here's another example. If he won the lottery, he would buy a big house. In this case, won is the past simple form of win. We're imagining a situation where he has won the lottery, but that's not happening right now. It's just something we wish for or dream about.
Now, let's take a look at some more examples to really get the hang of it. If I had $1 million, I would start my own business. If we lived closer to the beach, we would go surfing every weekend. If I were a famous actor, I would travel to amazing places. Notice how we always use past simple in the first part of the sentence, and would O plus base verb in the second part.
One important thing to note. In the second conditional, when we talk about hypothetical situations with I, he, she, or it, we often use were instead of was for the verb to be. For example, if I were rich, I would buy a mansion. If she were taller, she would be a basketball player. It sounds a little different, but that's just the correct form when we're imagining things that aren't true right now.
Great point, Emma. Using were with I or he, she, it makes your English sound more natural when talking about impossible or unlikely situations.
So, to recap, the second conditional is used for imaginary or unlikely situations. We form it like this. If plus past simple would plus base verb. Here are a couple of quick examples. If I had a time machine, I would visit the future. If we were famous, we would have a big party. Now it's your turn. Try making your own second conditional sentences and see how fun it can be to imagine all kinds of dream scenarios. What would you do if anything were possible?
And remember, this is a great way to practice talking about hypothetical or impossible situations. It helps you express your dreams and wishes in English.
That's right. So keep dreaming and keep practicing your second conditional.
One final tip. Even though we use past tense verbs in the second conditional, we're not really talking about the past. It's just a grammar trick that English uses when we talk about dreams, imaginary situations, or things that are unlikely to happen. For example, when we say, if I had a time machine, I would visit the future. We're not talking about something that happened in the past. We're using the past tense to talk about something imaginary or unreal. So don't get confused. The past tense here is not about the past. It's just the structure English uses to express those dreamy ideas. Cool, right?
All right, let's check out a couple of new words that we used today. These are really helpful, so pay close attention. First up, we have bookstore. A bookstore is a shop or a store where you can go to buy books. It's a place filled with different kinds of books, from fiction to nonfiction, novels to textbooks. If you love reading, the bookstore is a great place to find your next book to read. For example, I love going to the bookstore to find new novels.
Great! Now, let's talk about the next word. Tech company. A tech company is a business that creates new technology or develops apps. These companies are involved in designing, making, or selling products like smartphones, computers, software, or mobile apps. Tech companies are a big part of the modern world because they help make life easier and more fun with technology. For example, Apple is a famous tech company known for making the iPhone. She works for a tech company that develops mobile apps.
So to recap, a bookstore is a shop where you buy books. A tech company is a business that creates new technology or apps.
All right, practice time. Repeat these sentences after us. If I could travel anywhere, I would visit Japan. If I had more free time, I would learn French.
Beautiful job. Dreaming big helps you learn faster and makes English even more fun. And that's it for today's episode of English Time Podcast.
You've just learned how to introduce yourself, ask about daily life, and even dream about the future in English.
Remember, the key is practice. Listen again, repeat after us. Try using these phrases with friends.
And if you liked this episode, don't forget to subscribe and join us next time.
Until then, keep learning, keep smiling, and never give up.
See you next time. Bye.